Hello and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This is a Ukraine war frontline update for the 3rd of April 2023. Just to let you know that it's Easter holidays in the UK, so my children are around, which is why I have my videos will be delayed for the next couple of weeks, or the timings will be different. So sorry, not sorry. It's just the way it is. But let's get on to the frontline update. It being Monday, and many mappers and sources don't operate as much as they do on a Sunday as they do on other days. It means that Mondays are quite difficult to get a good variety and output of claims as to what's going on the front line. ISW does a bare bones minimum of an assessment. Looks just like a bunch of that's literally it. That's the whole front line, a bunch of bullet points there. It doesn't seem, having said that anyway, that there's been too much activity going on down the front. Vuhledar map here doesn't have any arrows in the northern Kupiansk area. So just to let you know, of course, we're going to the northeast first, which is Kupiansk to Zap to Kreminna. Not a lot of activity. There are claims from Morgonzo that there were Russian attacks around Avdivka, Tierney, and other such places. Usual kind of repelled attacks and that kind of activity. I haven't adjusted my maps, but remember yesterday I showed a geolocated bit of footage that the Russians were attacking a Ukrainian position there, so the Ukrainians could have control of territory closer to Chervona-Popivka. I've not seen any mappers change that, but that wouldn't surprise me if that area was blue. Likewise, down south of Kreminna in Vuhledar, there was footage of a Ukrainian tank battle or an attack on Russian positions around here. Thank you so much to the people who did geolocate for me. I said I didn't have time yesterday to do that, but the footage of that tank battle was here. So there could be blue territory further to the east, just north of Vuhledar, and then the Morgonzo, a pro-Russian Telegram source on Telegram, says that the Russians have made gains, but they're pretty unspecified in the Kreminna area. It looks something like this. So this is what the Telegram post looks like. Just down here, some claims around Kreminna that they have moved a little closer. In fact, I've just enlarged that. And if I translate that, so we go to search the image with Google, and this is how you get, hopefully, a nice bit of translation. Translate that. It says that in the Luhansk direction, with fire support, the armed forces of the Russian Federation again tried to advance towards Bilarivka. No result, so they've been repelled in Bilarivka. After the assault actions from Shiplivka in the Serebransky forest area, they managed to move a little. So they have moved a little there, but as to how much and where exactly, I'm unsure. And then those places to the north of the forest mentioned there for attacks in that area. So that's what's going on north of Bakhmut. There's just been very little news coming out about this whole front compared to what's going on in Bakhmut, and indeed not much activity being reported in these northern areas. And even towards Minkivka along this M03 highway there, or road. It's all about the flag waving in Bakhmut yesterday. Okay, so what has happened? Suryat Maps here says that if we show this, what they say, recent video footage shows Wagner troops in the center of the city, where they took control over the council city hall and other institutional buildings like the cultural center and tax office. Close to 70% of Bakhmut has been captured. It appears to be the only territorial gains within the Bakhmut city itself over the last 24 hours. This is indicated by War Mapper here. You can see that the Ukrainians are struggling to hold on to Bakhmut to the east of the railway line. Indeed, this area of the Azon metalworks, more of it is under control of the Russians than War Mapper gives them credit for there. As the ISW says, The Russian forces continue to attack Bakhmut and its environs. Russian forces likely seize the Azov plant in northern Bakhmut, as ISW has previously assessed. Ukrainian forces conducted a missile strike on the plant on April the 2nd. I showed you that, and lots of people are wondering whether it was explosion from booby traps or mining the building. As far as I understand, it was Tochka U. In fact, there might have been several hits on the building, because the guy that's pointing, using a pointer, like one of the Ukrainian generals, talks about there being a second strike. So it was a strike, it wasn't explosions from underneath. I know the footage does look like explosions from underneath, but the received wisdom is it was a Tochka U missile strike, and it may have been more than one. Yeah, other than that, not too much else to report of Bakhmut. No report says Wagner is confirmed in Bakhmut district administration building. It is unlikely that Ukrainians still fully control the area northeast of it due to encirclement danger because of the pressure from the Azov plant. It's possible that Ukrainians decided to withdraw west of the railway line for better defense. And actually, if that's the case, then they really are moving out of Bakhmut quite considerably, because the railway line comes down here, and that would be effectively admitting that they're ceding all of this territory there. Now, the Azov plant is up here. You've got the gains around sticking a flag in the building, which is, I believe, here. That is the position that the Russians took yesterday, but no change to the north and no change really to the south. I've updated the map differences between the pro-Russian Syriac mapping source and the pro-Ukrainian deep state map. So the yellow or the orange is the Ukrainian mapper, the red is the Russian mapper in this case, and you can see that there are some significant differences to the northwest. They generally align coming down to the east, and then you've got this section here that the pro-Russian mappers claim, and then a little bit more around the administrative building here where the flag was stuck in yesterday, and then a little bit of difference going further south where the pro-Russian map had the Russians controlling far more of this area. Deep State map did add a little bit onto the area north of Koronskoho Street, which goes here along here, and then you have Mariupolska Street there, where there's again a little bit of difference. But there was some change further down south. As you can see, there are differences in the mapping to the south, and indeed Vuhledar, if we go back to Vuhledar. So no real unexpected claims in their mapping around the Kreminna area. You can see the pressure being put on in the forest, but I don't think there's any territorial changes there. If we go to their Bakhmut map, which I like the Bakhmut map. I haven't shown you. I'll come to talk about what I was going to talk about. I do like the fact that they also provide this map, which isn't so much a relief map as just a general, I don't know, human resource map type thing, but it gives you a good infrastructural map. It gives you a good, clear view of the territory, and here you can see that as far as Vuhledar is concerned, they would align with Deep State map a little bit more. Syriac map has, again, this area here, more of this area here under control, and more of this area here for the Russians under Russian control. So that map aligns somewhat with the Deep State map. Okay, so we look to the southwest of Bakhmut. We can see that the area the Russians have been pushed back in is more significant for these guys than, say, with the pro-Russian mappers. So if you look at what I have on my map to show the difference between the maps. Now, as I said, I think yesterday, Vuhledar's map is the most generous to the Ukrainians. They say that the Ukrainians have pushed the Russians right back to this level here, just north of Klishchivka, in a sense. So what their map suggests, so if I draw Vuhledar's map in blue, it basically goes across there. So they claim that Ukrainians control all of this area, basically over there. But otherwise, it looks a bit chaotic there, doesn't it? The Syriac maps has it in red. The Deep State map has it in yellow. And then, as I said, Poulet Volant has it coming straight across there. Either way, the Ukrainians have had much more success in this general area than inside of Bakhmut. But I guess the success in Bakhmut is going to be evaluated in terms of the loss ratios for the both sides. I think, yes, you could argue in terms of territory. But for them, I think the calculation is, yeah, we're fine with ceding territory, but we need to do so by causing the Russians to take as many losses as possible. So that's how their metric, the Ukrainian metric, is going to be loss ratios. The Russian metric is going to be territory gained. And so I think the two sides there are operating under different metrics. And that is why you'll have pro-Russian saying, yeah, we're winning in Bakhmut, we're doing really well. And pro-Ukrainian saying, yeah, we're not winning, but we are succeeding in our objective in Bakhmut and we're doing really well. And you're like, well, that can't both be right, can it? But if you're using completely different metrics in terms of succeeding in your objectives, then yeah, that can happen. Anyway, as we move further down south, we come towards just something else to say. Down south here by Ozhyrinivka, the Ukrainians have made some gains there as well, and Syriac Maps has that too. So we have a look at their mapping here. So, situation south of Bakhmut, Ukrainian army launched a counterattack and expelled the Russian army from the western side of the water channel adjacent to the town of Ozhyrinivka. That is, it's not a huge amount of gain, but it is. It's something. It shows that the Ukrainians are still, active south down towards Kupiansk-Kreminna and Ozhyrinivka. So that I guess they'd want to push the Russians to keep them behind this canal line. More consistently all the way up there. There is some disagreement, as I've shown you, with the mapping around this Dubochki area, just here where there's, I think, is that I don't know if that's some kind of aggregate, some kind of mining facility there. Right, anyway, we come down to Avdivka, where there's not a great amount of news. Again, could be because of the weekend. It can be difficult to get news out of there. Let's go to the War Mapper map that has a map of Avdivka, and yeah, their claims are that there have been no confirmed changes to control since the last update. The ISW makes very little comments. Russian forces continue to conduct ground attacks along the Avdivka-Donetsk city line. Ukrainian Tversk Direction Forces Joint Press Center spokesperson stated that Russian forces retreated from unspecified positions in the Donetsk direction, but no real detail about that. War Mapper yesterday did make a claim that the Russians had been pushed back in this general area just north of Vodyane. I don't have that confirmation from any other sources, but that could be what the ISW claim concerns. Okay, so that is really it for Avdivka, other than to show you Poulet Volant's map, which, as you can see here, so if we compare these two, War Mapper, the Russian forces are only definitely in control of areas just north of Opitny and a kind of salient to the northwest of Vodyane, but otherwise it's somewhat contested, or there are Russian claims, so Russian presence as they have it. Poulet Volant's much more solidly across there for the Russians, and there's pressure to the north, but no news really coming out, and pressure along from Pisky and Pervomaisky as towards Pervomaisky as well. There has been a little bit of its Syriac maps, a little bit of change to area to the south. Here we go. Is it here? Yes, here we go. So the Russians made some small advances just to the south of Pervomaisky. I mean, really is small advances. If that is of interest to you, it's just literally there, a little triangle of land there, but a case of meters. Other than that, not too much to report, and in fact, it's not a lot to report anywhere along the front line. There are some, so I'm going to bypass Marinka because I have no explicit details about Marinka and come to Vuhledar, where Deep State map has a little bit of a gained territory for the Russians along this tree line here. So that will be, tree lines represent often trench networks, so they might have taken some trenches just to the north of Mikilska. And that is to the east of Vuhledar. But other than that, not too much information. There's been Sovolyov, one of the Russian propagandists, I think, has been in the area here, filming possibly on behalf of the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade. Claims about, trying to communicate that they're doing a good job and all that kind of stuff, which could be an indication that actually they've been pretty much hammered in the area. That was the UK intelligence release today, I think. I'll check that out. So this is their release today. The Russian army is likely running a deliberate information operation to revive the reputation of a brigade, which has become synonymous with the recent Russian failures in Ukraine. Throughout March 2023, the activities of the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, so those are Marines, were highlighted via some of the most extensive Russian helmet cam combat footage yet released. A televised visit by prominent Russian TV host Vladimir Solovyov, public announcements that the formation is in high spirits with a strong determination to achieve the set goals, and images showing the 155th being re-equipped with modified tanks. I don't know when the Solovyov visit was actually. It might not be in the last couple of days. In reality, but the UK intelligence kind of summarizes all of this, in reality, the 155th has likely been reduced to combat ineffective status at least twice in the last 6 months, due to being committed to tactically flawed frontal assaults near Vuhledar in Donetsk Oblast. The MOD's effort to revive the brigade's image likely reflects concerns about the way in which its failures were being increasingly associated with Russian senior military leaders. And that is that for there. Just a little about the 155th. There's been talk, I don't know whether Melitopol was hit again last night, but it has been hit 3 times within the last week with HIMARS strikes. And again, and I think its rail depot has been hit multiple times. Again, this is possibly feeding into the idea that the Ukrainians are shaping this general area ready for a counter-offensive here. The question is, where are they going to place their counter-offensives? And one of the most common options amongst analysts, and I would agree with this, is around the Zaporizhia area towards the coast here, so that they can get access to long-range artillery strikes on Crimea, as well as cutting the land bridge and supply to the Kherson and Crimea area from the Russian occupied territory land bridge. And possibly accessing, hitting the Kerch Bridge again, so that it cuts off Crimea and Kherson from the Russian mainland. So, yeah, there seems to be a lot of activity concerning shaping the battlefield there. And otherwise, not too much to report. It is a Monday, quieter days informationally, if not. That might not be a true reflection of the activity that's gone on yesterday. Just because it was a Sunday doesn't mean like people will take a day off from doing war. But it could be that the information is a little bit slower for the Monday. So anyway, that's today's Frontline update. Please like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate all the support you are giving. And as I say, my time in my videos might be a bit different over the next 2 weeks. Also, keep an eye out for a live interview I'm going to do with Anastasia Paraskevova, who is on Twitter and in the information space. She's from Kharkiv and is there at the moment, I believe, and I'm going to be talking to her about her experiences of the war and her thoughts about the war. That'll be on Tuesday night my time, so wherever you are in the world, UK time, Tuesday, I think 8 p.m. So please come and hang out with us as we talk about all things Ukraine. Anyway, thanks so much for your support. Take care. Speak soon.